guys, today I'm going to read a classroom favorite, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I know a lot of us like to read this right before lunchtime. It's one of our favorite books. So we're going to go ahead and read it today. This book was written by Judy Barrett, and the pictures were drawn by Ron Barrett. And I wonder if anybody remembers who this character is. So I'm going to read the words, and then I'm going to show you the picture, just like in the classroom, because there's a lot of words on this page. So it's really hard for Miss Mary to read the words and show you the picture at the same time. Okay? We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning. Pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Who makes breakfast at your house? Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed toward the kitchen ceiling. Oh, does anybody remember what it was? And landed on Henry's head. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed. Even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lived a town called Chew and Swallow. Did anybody notice a change in the picture? In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there was no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Huh, this guy kind of looks familiar. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain. It never snowed snow. And it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. So there's our juice and tomato soup. There's our peas and mashed potatoes. There's our hamburgers. This is Leah's favorite food. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear predictions for the next day's food. So they would not only hear what food they would get today, they would get to know what they're going to eat tomorrow on the next day. How cool is that? When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people would took them home and put them in the refrigerators in case they got hungry in between meals. My favorite picture is this lady. carrying her briefcase like she's going to work, but she's trying to catch some lunch. Which one is your favorite? The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time, it rained milk afterwards. What's your favorite breakfast food? For lunch one day, Frankenfurters are already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. They were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. How cool would that be to go to a restaurant that had no ceiling? Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing with a wonderful jello setting in the west. Oh, wow. Look how big this food is getting. Can we see at the bottom? Look at the deer. And then look at the size of this pork chop. And then here's a little tiny turtle. And look at the size of the baked potato. That's just crazy. And then look at the jello. It's like glowing. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's flower gardens. Does anybody know what it's called when you put food in the ground? I wonder what that's called. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. One day, there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day was only broccoli, overcooked. And the next day there was Brussels sprouts, peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. So there's a picture of the ocean with all of the bread in it. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning, and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Oh dear. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomachache. That's what happens when you eat too much. Your tummy can hurt. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. Does anybody see the man in the bathtub? I think that's the favorite part of this book. Everybody likes to point him out. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there were no more schools for children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. Look at all of the destruction done by the food. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for the new land. So they made boats out of the food. And they only took things that were very important, that they had to have. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to rebuild temporary houses for themselves out of it. Look at the bread houses. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find the places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next day we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. So in the comments, we can talk about your favorite part to the story. You can talk about your favorite picture. You could draw a picture of something that you really enjoyed in the book. You could answer one of the questions that I asked during the story. So I look forward to seeing your comments, and I'll see you in the next book. Bye, guys.